Get up. Okay.
You're like,
Let's call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First thing we need to do this morning is approval of the agenda as presented. Is there any additions, changes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve
I'll
as,
second that.
and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Public comment, we have one, Warren Taylor.
You want me first?
Yeah, because you're on the list, then we're gonna go into these other ones that are,
Okay. Actually, I got a couple different things. I talked to Chris earlier and she said I need to come before the commissioners. Back last month, one of our former chief deputies at Coroner's office passed away. And his family requested donations be made to the Perry County Coroner's office. We got donations, but I don't have a line item or account to put it in. So I need approval to set up a line item to deposit this money.
I don't have a problem with that. I mean, that's sheriff's department, whoever, that way people can give specifically to that. We just have to have a separate account for those deposits and then,
I just told him because of the state statute with everything, with the through the sheriff, that you guys have to approve that before I can
Right.
set that up.
we gotta do that. And then they're restricted.
Yeah.
So only the coroner can have access to them.
Okay, then the next one is I'd like to have another fund set up. When attorneys request copies from the coroner's office, they pay for them. And over the last 3 years, sometimes we took in some money, not much. In 2020, we received $34, which goes into, I guess, the general fund. I'm not sure. And then 21, we only got $5. 22, we had $1,400. 23, $89. Now this year, so far, I've turned in 57, but I got another check since I sent the invoice to the attorneys in Louisville for $63. I'd like for that money to go back in to a line item so I can buy paper and ink, because ink cartridges for my printer for 4 ink cartridges about $140 on a $300 budget. That doesn't leave me much room for anything else as far as office supplies.
So currently it's being funded through an appropriation, I'm assuming.
My regular line item for office.
And it's not sufficient. I think that we're gonna have to get the council involved with that because, I mean, they're the ones that fund your budget, and if they're not sufficiently funding it to meet whatever the needs are, but then to replenish your paper and cartridges, then that's the use of that. So depending on, I mean, we get money back in all different kinds of areas, but it's budgeted items. So if it's more or less or whatever, then that needs to be addressed. But I think that's a council issue on funding.
Okay.
And all fee bases, every department's fees go into general and everybody has an appropriation. So all of our fees for printouts, all of the recorder's fees, all that goes into general and then you're paid out. So it's not necessarily like dollar for dollar. It's just that money goes into general and then you have a budgeted amount.
Then I have to come back and ask for
If you have,
additional appropriation. I was trying to save from having to come back and ask for additional funding for office supplies.
if we did that for the coroner's office, my assumption would be is everybody would like to do the same thing. Then what do you do with your budget? Do you cut your budget back in anticipation and you've got such a variance in what you're collecting?
Right.
$60 one year, $1,400 the next. How in the world are you going to try to manage?
114.
114. But I mean, there's such a variance there, you wouldn't know from year to year what to do, and that's why they budgeted a reasonable amount, they feel like.
That's like right now with the 63 that I haven't sent the invoice yet, that's going, so that'll be up to $112 for this year already. And like I say, coming out with $300 budget, but I'll bring it up before the council. And then the last thing, and you got it on the agenda later on, surplus item. The old coroner's van that's sitting out there outside by the DNR's boat. There's no reason to be paying to keep that old vehicle's insurance and stuff on it. It's shot. It was set aside 3 years ago, or 2.5 years ago, for the animal shelter to use to transport dogs with. They didn't want it because it's in such bad shape, and it's just sitting out there. The county needs to get rid of it.
If it's not of any use to us, we need to look at it to see what we could possibly repurpose it or send it along. I mean, there's no reason for us to insure it and let it sit there unused.
Right.
How many
It's just
miles
sitting
are
out-
on that?
It's less than 100,000 miles. I'm going to say 90-some thousand, but I think it's less than 100,000, but everything in it's falling apart. Lights are broke in the back. It's just, and it's not the miles probably as much as sitting and idling a whole bunch over the years. It's something to look at because it's just sitting out in the weather now. It's been sitting out basically all winter.
Your opinion, is it worth selling or is it scrap?
You might get, it's a Plymouth. It's, what year it is, 1997 or something, Plymouth van. So it's,
We've had in the past, we had an old vehicle, I can't remember what department it came from, but we actually donated to the fire and rescue for training, for extrication, where they actually cut it up and then they hauled it up to the salvage yard then after that. So it was good for the first responders, so.
That was inside, but it's,
they moved it out because they're redoing the garage, the big 4 or 5 bay garage. My understanding, the health department's going to take over part of it for drive-through clinics, and they had to move stuff out. The DNR's big boat sitting outside now, and the van's sitting out.
it's been sitting inside
For,
until,
Recently.
yeah,
recently.
it's probably been sitting out there 5 months.
Do we have control of that, Randy, or does the health department have control of the title of that?
It's probably commissioners, I bet.
I think so.
I know the ambulance.
Well, since it's coroner, it probably would be,
Yes,
yes.
yeah.
Okay, that's all.
We just need to look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Warren.
Next one up is Linda Jones.
Did you guys want to vote for the setup of the donation fund?
Sure. I'd entertain a motion to set up a donation fund for coroners department.
I make a motion.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now,
Good morning. I am not Linda Jones. I couldn't get Linda to come up here, but I'm Sarah Worstel, Executive Director of Southwest Indiana Workforce Board. We are here to get the local elected officials agreement renewed. Southwest Indiana Workforce Board is a 501c3 that receives federal dollars through the State Department of Workforce Development to operate in 9 counties for Work One Southwest offices, as well as other workforce development activities. So we do come to each county commission and have them identify either a commissioner or a mayor to serve as a representative for the county on an executive council. It's not a formal board member, but it is an executive council that meets at least twice a year. So we are here to get that renewed. You do need to identify either a commissioner or the mayor to be the county's representative.
do we have to do that today?
Historically, it's been the mayor of Tell City. It was Mayor Adams before Mayor Kale, so we
And
have
how long was this term?
2 years.
2 years. And it's our decision who we identify as that individual? Comments?
I think it always has been since I've been commissioner, it's been the mayor. I think Mayor Ewing was at one time, yes.
Yep.
But it doesn't have to be.
Correct.
Could it be a mayor from Hamilton?
Good. Well, it has to be a city or town of more than 5,000 in population.
Only town city.
Talk quiet.
I promise, but we do need to have somebody that could be at least our April 26th board meeting, which is where the 9 county elected officials come together and appoint our fiscal agent, as well as select one to serve as the regional chief elected official. Currently, that is Mayor Joe Yoakum from Vincennes. So there are a couple of matters of business that have to be taken care of.
Majority of the counties, do they have a mayor or do they have a commissioner?
It depends. Majority have been commissioners, but it really kind of goes back and forth depending on kind of the landscape in the county. In the last couple of years, we've had 4 mayors. There has only been one shift from Gibson County from Mayor Wright to one of the commissioners, but other than that, it has historically been mayors.
I heard Rebecca said she'd do it, so I'm gonna nominate her.
And I'll second that.
We have a nomination of Rebecca Thorne to serve, seconded by Randy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do you have the agreement?
I do.
Okay, we do need to have that signed this morning with Commissioner Thorne's information. And just a couple of updates from our Work One offices. We're planning a Javapalooza event on June the 13th for Perry County. Javapalooza has been kind of our take on the music festival Lollapalooza. So if you're familiar, it's just a pretty big event. Javapalooza, though, incorporates resource organizations. So it's not just a job fair. This is bringing in different organizations that individuals may need in order to secure employment. What we have found is most people need more than just a job. They need some kind of support, particularly whether it's childcare, transportation, legal services, adult education. So we have incorporated those resources into the job fair. So they're having their first planning meeting today for the June 13th Perry County Javapalooza.
And where is that held at?
I'm not sure where they're going to hold
Okay.
that, but
They haven't
they'll talk
decided
about
yet.
that today.
Okay.
Mhm. And then the last thing is we have formed a relationship with the Child Support Division from the prosecutor's office. We have our representative from the Tell City office go to child support, I think it's on Wednesdays maybe, to meet with people who may need a job in diversion of facing any kind of legal action behind child support. So that has been a really good opportunity to help those that may need assistance in finding employment.
And this on June 13th, where will that be located?
I'm not sure yet, but I can definitely get that to you once they've got that secured. And we've got invitations to the April 26th board meeting. Jody will pass those out, as well as our last annual report.
Just doing the secretarial work.
In
Just clear.
Knox County, they were called my bodyguard, which that's probably not accurate, but they also, we had to do that meeting with no power, so that was interesting.
And no power.
They had no power that day.
They run a tight ship over there.
Saving. Whose time is it? I don't know.
The president of the commissioners. once we get Mayor Kale's signature, we'll get this back to you.
All right,
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, thank you.
next one up is, and I'll mispronounce this, but it's Gregory Schnarr.
Mr. Schneer's not here today.
Schnarr, okay, so
Yeah.
I knew I pronounced that
Same
incorrectly.
office. I have some packets. Here.
I think I have all this information.
You got all that already. I know he sent out some
Yeah,
emails.
I emailed
Yep,
those
I
with
got all this
packets.
Okay.
information right here.
Scrap paper.
There we go.
So, and my client is here in the back corner, Ms. Bukowski. So we filed or asked, it's a petition to vacate part of certain streets here in Tell City. I've got it, it's all set out in your packets. There are diagrams and drawings in the packets too, setting out which streets hoping to vacate. The first one is the east half of 30th Street. And the reason we are asking that the east half of 30th Street be vacated, and I don't know if you can get to the exhibits or the drawings, I think there's a drawing for each requested street that's going to be vacated. So we're asking that the east half, or that half of it be vacated because the west half was already vacated. And I think that is actually in your packets too, showing when that was vacated, or it may not be. I have the ordinance that was from 2012 that vacated the west half of 30th Street.
Was that through the county or the city of Tell City?
Let me see who signed up on that. Bill Amos, Jody Portwendell, and Tom Hauser.
That'd be county.
Okay, so that was an ordinance that was recorded on, looks like October 18th of 2012. And that vacated the west half of 30th Street already. So we are asking that the portion set out on the diagram that is the east half, that be vacated. It's kind of bolded on the line of the street there. Then we are also asking on 31st Street, the portion that is in bold, that also be vacated. We are asking that the whole street be vacated. I believe that is the line of the part that was not annexed to the town. So we're asking, and I think there's some case law or statutes that state if, the landowner wasn't actually involved with the annexation or the plating of the street, they should not get their portion, should not get portion of the street back. So we're asking that all of it go towards our clients.
How much land altogether are you speaking of?
The land altogether,
Mm-hmm.
the east half of 30th, the portion that's in bold, part of 31st Street, both east and west halves, but just the part that's in bold on the diagram.
I think it's about 15 feet, if I'm not mistaken, when I was looking through the documents. And I talked to Mr. Schnarr about this a couple times. We're not,
15 feet where?
like, the east half of the street is 15 feet, like, running down.
This here portion right here in bold. You're on Gutenberg right there.
Yeah, and I got 31st right
There's
here.
another-
Look at the
Right.
map here.
Oh, okay, there's another, I think it's prior to that one, there,
Yeah.
that
This
there
one here.
part there.
But that's wider than 15 feet. City streets are 80 feet wide when they were originally platted, and then 70 feet on the named streets.
You've got 70 right here, yeah.
That's what they were.
Mm-hmm.
And what they've always done in the past, adjoining property owners, if a street was vacated, took half of the street.
Right.
This is from years of John Warner and
Right.
group telling me that. My one concern here is they've already vacated the property, I think, they start with a K here, the Killers, yes. That has been vacated, so those roads are gone in there. The one that concerns me a little bit is taking this portion out of 31st Street, which looks to me, it goes from Boundary Lane all the way to Tell City, Petsalazzi, Mozart, whatever they would ever choose to put a street in.
That's
And-
quite a bit, isn't it?
And no, they're just taking this little wedge here
You
out.
talking about right here, Randy?
This little wedge right here.
Got that little wedge right there?
On 31st. What it
Yeah, that's
actually
what it
does,
looks like right here, so.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it cuts
Oh,
out the
yes.
access from Boundary back to that back property, so you're gonna be limited. Right now, there's an easement for a road, should someone choose to put it in there. And I don't know that it's gonna happen during our lifetime, but once we give that road away, it's gonna cut access off back to that area. Now, the rest of it has been vacated in and around their property, so there's no adversarial action there that's gonna cause issues as far as getting in and out of the property other than the property owners. But 31st Street, you're taking a wedge out of it, right in the middle of it, the entire 80-foot strip.
So what you're saying, Randy,
Mm-hmm.
from there back this way is still platted, Clear Street,
And in the
and from
front.
there out to down the
Yes.
way.
So
Okay.
if you vacate that
Yeah,
section
you
out
just
of that
You're
road,
just cutting that out, or it can
you
never be.
effectively make access to the backside could only come from the north into that property.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on, how our ground lays around here, it may be a real task. Whereas Boundary currently is accessible fairly well back into that field area, should someone choose to develop that in the future. That's my concern from looking at it.
Were you referencing property owned by the Kellers that would not have access? I believe the Kellers are here.
The Keller's property has already been vacated.
Okay,
So in essence, any of these other vacations, whether it's 30th Street or Gutenberg or whatever, they've already been cut off. So that's just ground that's kind of landlocked already.
okay.
So
Yeah.
any action we take on that only impacts the people who currently own that property. So I don't think that's a problem for us. That's not for me at least, because that's right in the middle of their plat.
Okay.
The 31st, where you take that section out,
Mhm.
that would eliminate the ability to take 31st Street from Boundary Way,
Mhm.
and then it would be north. You're taking accessibility away in that road.
Are you saying to the Kellers property then?
Well, I think Randy Aubrey owns some property back there, if I looked at the map correctly.
Mhm.
And that would be his access, we all are gonna own our property forever and ever and ever, but that's not realistic because it changes hands, as families change, move away and that.
Mhm.
And one thing we need in our community is growth. And whatever we can do not to handcuff people potentially with future growth, that's,
And if I recall correctly from the plots, I think the Aubreys own quite a bit of land
Quite a
back
bit
there.
back
So
in
they have, I guess my belief would be they'd have other access
should they
to that
sell it,
land.
whatever they do to it. That's the problem we get into. We can't predict the future as far as what any one individual may or may not do.
Okay.
But that would be my concern on it.
I just don't want to see anybody landlocked. And,
I don't believe there is a land locking. I think the Aubreys have access from different directions to I don't think they currently access their land this way now anyway. So I know they have a different access to it. So I don't think, I understand what you're saying.
They
Mr.
come
Cole,
off,
but
they
I don't
come
think
off
there's a land
Pestalozzi.
locking.
Mhm.
That's where they come
Yeah.
from. And then they own a fair amount of property back there.
yeah,
Still has streets platted in much of it.
So who owns the portion on the 31st Street then? Is it the Kellers or the Arbery?
So part of
Right
it,
here.
the Kellers own on the west side of it, at least a portion of it. My client owns part of it, the part that's in bold.
Okay,
And then above that is Kellers there. They own north of it, north of where we are asking to have vacated on the west side. The east side is Aubrey's.
seeing what, Randy, essentially what happened when the Killers got their property vacated of the streets, the commissioners maintained 31st Street.
Yes,
along
for an
there.
access for future use,
Right.
yes.
And then they vacated all the remainder of the roads in there.
Will this be any problem with the 2-mile radius of Tell City? Tell City does have a 2-mile radius,
Andrew,
city.
that's the question. They maintain through zoning,
Mhm.
2 miles
2 mile
outside
radius.
the city limits.
Mhm.
Do they need to take action before we take action, or how does that?
I don't think so, because it would be the fringe area is a zoning issue. I think this is just clearing up who's the actual owner of the land, not necessarily how it's zoned. So I don't know,
Vacating a property, I don't know how, if
Yeah.
that's not a controlled zoning issue.
I don't think it's a zoning issue, because that more or less affects how the property is used, where you would be affecting who owns the property, essentially vacating it from, a platted road to a private owner at that point. So how that property is used is still subject to Tell City's zoning, is my understanding. You're just changing the underlying owner, who would then have to
Currently,
comply.
the property doesn't have a title to it,
Yes,
because it's described as block 455 or whatever that is, due to the old 150, 70-year-old planning of Tell City, is what it amounts to.
so I think you could take action without having to have Tell City go first, but whatever the newer, giving title to this private landowner, they would then be subject to any zoning by Tell
Right.
City. And there are such things as constructive easements as well. I'm not sure if you're all aware of that if some property is landlocked and does eventually change ownership, they can't just be blocked off from all access. There would have to be some easement given by some adjoining property in order to get them access to a road or to utility, et cetera. But I'm not as familiar with how that geographically would lay out. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you take action, there is some other legal remedies for that future property owner to get access to their land, but it would be an extra step that landowner would have to take.
In our area here, some of our challenges are, one way may be the easy access, the other way it's possible that we have to build 2 bridges to get there. And just because the lay of the terrain,
Yeah.
it can cause some very, difficult, it can effectively, make the value of the land
Yeah, I get.
not worth a lot, depending on how that action is set.
And then I guess the last street or portion of street is the Gutenberg one that lies between my client's property and the section.
Yeah, this one here, yeah.
Yeah, the last
Running that one.
drawing
And see, that's
there.
Yeah,
that's where, see, this is all adjoining them.
Mm-hmm.
It's in between their properties. Now, this Gutenberg probably is more of a challenge than
On
anything,
this side,
because
that
it's
side, and this
separating,
in the center.
separating the 2 parcels. But,
And all the landowners have been notified, correct?
Yes, they've either been notified by certified mail. There was one that did not, I guess it didn't get delivered, but we've got a confirmation that it has now been delivered. And we also published to everyone. So we believe we've adequately complied with the statute and have given notice to adjoining.
Because I had noticed that one hadn't been.
That's the one that we have now received by doing a different type delivery where it's not required to be signed, but it shows that it's delivered
Okay.
through the postal service. So we have that confirmation back that it has been deposited in their mailbox and moved with the address.
so if we vacated everything except 31st Street, how would that impact the intended use of the property?
I can have my client speak to that if she wants to. I think they were wanting to be able to use the entire properties, but I don't want to put, words in her
Were you
mouth.
intending to build upon it,
Would you come up here,
just to
please?
use it?
We just want to use it.
Yeah, but please come up here, because everybody wants to know who
We
the,
can't hear you.
who the person is when watching the recordings.
It's this property here. This
It's the
one here,
31st Street.
31st Street here, that's, this is 30th Street, there's your Gutenberg and your property. Both sides. This is
Yeah.
31st Street here, that's Little Creek that goes through there. Okay. So I think the question was, if they don't vacate this, how will that impact you there? I think the
Yeah,
concern
and
is
that-
that this here, it kind of takes it. it
Takes
vacates
away
a portion of
access
the
from
street,
from Boundary.
and then there's no access, believed to the Audreys, even though I know they have other access, but the street access would not be there anymore if they vacate this portion. What was your intended use, just to keep, I mean, you've been using it, correct? I mean,
We've been taking care of it,
mowing it,
We've been
and,
mowing it, we bought a bushel,
Yeah.
just so we can take care of
Right.
it. But we moved here in November of 22. We were sold 6 acres. We now find out that we barely have 4 because of how the whole paperwork's been
Yeah.
being kept here. So it was very disappointing. We're just trying to clean this up. So their offspring and our offspring, when we're no more, don't have to clean this up. We're trying to clean it.
What, the way in the past, now whether this is legal or not, how this property was handled, because not only did we have it in Tell City, I think Leopold has similar plats that were made in good intentions to much bigger cities, and they just draw them in rectangular blocks. The way in the past it's been, if you have a 80-foot road, if you're the property owner to the one side, you get 40, the other property owner gets 40, they split it. The city disannexed a lot of this. This is part of what they disannexed. They said, well, we don't need it in the city of Tell City, nor are we gonna put a road in, curbs, or any of this stuff. So the way it's actually handled is that it's yours to use whatever you want to with it on your 40-foot up until Tell City and/or someone wants to put a road in there, build the road. And so there's a lot of property like that around here. It's the same way. So as far as you using it, you won't necessarily have a title to it, but you won't necessarily be paying property on it either.
Okay.
So, and the only thing, it appears the Keller property, they took the interior part of it and vacated those roads, which I look at yours and it's separating your property. We had this up northern part of the county earlier, where there were some of these roads right in the middle of this guy's field, and he owns everything around them. They serve no purpose. And the county's not gonna put a road in that area either, so we just vacate it. And I think that would be my feeling, is the interior parts of those roads we'd vacate, because you already have cut off access to them by the vacation of the Keller property. So then you've got your parcel together, without having roads running in the middle of it.
so when you're saying vacate part, you mean?
30th, half of 30th Street.
Yes, half of-
See, and that's the reason only half of 30th was vacated, because that's just how the property splits. Whether that's legal or not, I don't know, but that's how they've always done it here.
So the
You-
rest of 30th?
Yes, the remainder of
Yeah, the
30th,
remainder.
and then Gutenberg just separates your properties. It's already been cut off to the east. So there's no access to Gutenberg either. So that way you get your parcel together and we don't cut off necessarily the potential of 31st Street. Whether it'll happen, when and if, who knows?
And you won't be paying taxes on
You
what
won't
you
be
don't
paying
own.
taxes on it. But you still have use of it.
And there won't be any neighbors coming at me about this, trying to claim it.
No, they can't claim it.
Mm-mm.
No. The way that, I had this conversation years ago with John Warner. This is the reason I'm a little bit familiar with it. The way they've always done it is the roads were put in and the property, adjoining property owners actually control half of that property. If you own both sides of it, as you do on Gutenberg, then that whole parcel would be under your control. That's how it works. If we vacate them, then that eliminates the fact that for some odd reason, somebody put a road in there, but the likelihood of that's probably near zero, because it would be an expensive road to nowhere,
To nowhere.
to nowhere.
Mhm.
So,
Since this is already split half, we're just vacating it to one landowner then. The other landowner
Yeah,
has got it
see,
vacated.
and that's why when the other commissioners vacated it, they vacated half of the road.
Yes.
Because that's been the practice within the
Okay.
county forever and ever. So all you're doing is giving her the other half of the road.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Gutenberg's between their properties, so they can, I understand that having a potential of a road in the middle, it makes you a little uncomfortable.
Mhm.
So vacate Gutenberg because it's already cut off. And then maintain 31st Street, which she has until a road gets put in there or somebody annexes it again. It's basically hers and she won't pay taxes on it.
Yeah.
Yours to use.
Does that clear it up for you? Okay.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, thank you. And I know Mr. and Mrs. Keller are here. I don't know if they want to say anything or be heard.
I mean, I'm sure that's what happened to you. That's how you guys got half of that road.
It was vacated before we purchased.
Okay, so you're not familiar with how that came
Well,
about?
we were here when they were vacating it, but Al Brock still owned it, and he vacated and then we bought it.
And then you bought it. Okay.
I'm glad y'all are getting this cleaned up, like you said. There should be a lot more of this going on.
A big drawing point of this property was there was a summer kitchen that's now my brooder house and my place with a chicken yard and an orchard. We got into a little thing with the neighbors, so we had it surveyed and found out the shop, the driveway, my chicken yard, that's not even on our property. So we got with the Kellers and traded them our wooded area for that area just so I can keep my chickens.
Yeah.
That's
I
my
wouldn't
big
let
thing.
you take your chickens.
I know, but we want it clean, so.
That you did that though, to get it all straightened out, and I appreciate it.
Trust me, you're not unique in the county
No.
because
Okay.
a lot of these plats were made mid-1800s. And people just came in and drew in rectangular blocks and streets and everything, irregardless of the terrain of the property.
Yeah, we got to the,
People then would build where it's suitable to build.
Yeah.
They didn't care about where the block was.
No.
Simply because the block or where I should build may be down in a hole someplace and it floods. So they built in the other one. Then you find buildings and property that's on actual street easements is what it is. But it's not uncommon here.
everybody assumed it was from ditch to ditch.
That's a lot of property
And
lines in
that's-
Perry County
that's
is
just
open,
not
that
how
ditch
it
to
went.
this ditch.
So we're just cleaning it up, because we're paranoid. Everything thinks me. I'm German, so I don't think me.
Good.
Well, I appreciate y'all
I
doing
don't
that.
see anyone else here who was notified of it.
So if that's okay with you, I mean, I don't have, if that works,
Will that work for you? This? And- Okay,
I would
good.
vote to vacate, it would be the east side of 30th and the entire Gutenberg between 30 and 31.
Yeah.
And then it would become their
Thank you, I
property.
appreciate it.
So
I did have.
Sorry you had to go through so much trouble.
You'll have to read
Revise
that.
it. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure
I'll get
that-
it back to you then.
So if you want to get an ordinance and then we can vote at that time, or we can vote now, whatever you want to do.
We can vote now.
I think vote now, that'll be clean and be
And
done.
we'll just sign it once you
Give her
get.
a peace of
once you
mind,
get
all
over
these
there.
property owners. peace of mind. I make a motion.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
We will
We
send that.
appreciate you coming to Perry County.
Thank you.
And your chickens.
Thank you.
Next item up, we have the minutes from March 19th, 2024. Any comments, additions, revisions? Entertain a motion to accept them as written.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Tracy Fisher. She's gonna make our county rich.
Go ahead.
Good morning. I am here this morning to request approval to submit the community corrections grant again this year. This will be for the 2025 grant in the budget, and I believe you guys received a copy of that. I just need your signature showing that it is approved.
And that happens, it starts July 1?
Is that they changed it? It's January to December now. Yeah,
January,
so
okay.
we are applying now for the January 25 starting.
Okay. Do we need to make a motion on that?
Yeah, I would, yeah.
Yep.
Any comments, questions? It's something that's year after year. I mean, it's.
2008.
It can be,
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
I just need your signatures on the letter.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I think I've got it in order. Okay, just email me a copy of that letter. I've got everything else. All good.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything you do.
There you go. Next up is Steve Howe. He's talked these guys down on price, so we're gonna have lots of money left over. Right, Steve? Two roads we have going on, Brushy Fork. It's from Tell City Limits for 3.55 miles to Acorn. And continuing 2.1 miles to State Road 145, which is St. Mark's, correct?
Yes.
We also have, while we're going past, this is for Seymour Road. So who's gonna write these numbers down?
This is for Brushy Fork.
Yes, this is Brushy Fork, E and B. So I can find where. We didn't need to take mandatory bid price on the first sheet. The guys from E and B here? Yeah. Okay. If I'm incorrect with this number, you make sure and correct me. If I am incorrect with what I'm reading, make sure and correct me. He's got a breakdown here, mobilization, the wedging and all these, but the total is 536,350. Is that correct? And that's Brushy Fork Road. And this one would be for Seymour.
Is this for E&B?
Yep, E and D also. Seymour is 51,300.
Is that correct?
From J.H. Rudolph, and this is for Brushy Fork.
Good. Should be able to print that in.
Yeah. Maybe it's up right here.
What is this right here?
That's not it. I thought I had it made easy to.
Hey, hey, what do you got there?
Yep. But it's not totaled.
If I may, it's on the page with the blue tab, Form 96, first page.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate the tab. I looked at it. J.H. Rudolph for Brushy Fork is $653,680.
And this would be for Seymour.
This would be for Seymour. Jeez.
Blue tab.
Here we go. Seymour Road is $57,987. J.H. Rudolph. This one is from CNR, I'm sure. Yep, CNR Construction.
Brushy Fork.
This is Brushy Fork. CNR Construction is $614,311.50. Seymour Road, $42,681.50, and this is from CNR Construction. And that's the brief. I would entertain a motion, subject to review, to award them to the lowest, let's see, which appears now to be E&B on Brushy Fork Road and CNR on Seymour. So we need to review them, have legal counsel review the bids to make sure they're in order. And then the sooner the better. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the low bids pending review. That way we can exercise and go on.
I make the motion.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Thank you. Next item up is indirect allocation plan use for 2024. What's that, Chris?
Got some money. We work with Gossett Consulting and with our 4D, with the courts, clerk and prosecutor. And it's kind of a little bit behind because we received funds in 2024 for our indirect cost in 2022. So worked with Gossett Consulting, getting them all of our financials, going over everything to get the 66% back. So we will be getting $47,015.10 back for our indirect cost from 2022. And I gave you guys the report of everything, went over everything with Jeff Dossett. And the cost for them doing this is $3,000. So it's definitely well worth it. Working with them to let us know what we can.
And we need to re-sign that agreement, correct?
Yes.
For another $3,000, right?
Yep.
They charge.
Mhm.
So it's worth
Winner.
Winner chicken dinner.
That's a pretty good swap there.
Yeah.
if we get that much back.
That was all.
So do we need to have a motion to
Yes.
sign the contract with Dawson for the year 24
It'll
or
be-
5?
It'll be 23 indirect costs to receive in 25.
Okay.
So I'll work with them this year to get all of the 23 done. I've got my list of everything to get to them already. It's kind of neat. I mean, it's kind of a cycle. We met last week and went over the 22 indirect cost report that we receive in 2024. And then he gives me the list of everything again, and I just get everything to him and work with them to get all that.
Can I make a motion?
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to re-engage Dawson for 23. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next item up is the 2025 payroll in the amount of $178,627.07. And this is why we go through this individually to get us more compensation. So
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
The next item up is the 3/25/24 payroll withholding in the amount of $38,162.01.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion
I'll second that.
and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next item up is is April 8th, 2024 payroll in the amount of $177,479.84.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next item is April 8th, 2024 payroll withholding in the amount of $38,010.41.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion.
I'll second that.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next item is health claims in the amount of $45,725.97.
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion.
Second.
Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Dental claims in the amount of $106.41.
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion.
Second that.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Vision claims in the amount of $122.13.
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Life insurance claims in the amount of $1,447.10.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Flex claims in the amount of $1,048.37.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
That's the last of that.
The accounts payable claim docket for April 1st, 2024 in the amount of $475,931.14.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that
We
motion.
have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next one up is additional appropriations for Wagner Irvin Shealy. It's an invoice which we have a copy of, and primarily handbook, correct?
Yes.
Is what they were advising on rewording it, trying to keep it in compliance. A few changes.
I took this to the council last week, just kind of asking them, because we received this invoice, and typically we pay this out of the commissioner's line item for consulting. We have budgeted $3,000 in that line item and that account for 2024, and we have already used all that and had to ask for an additional due to some legal consulting. So I asked them at the council meeting if they wanted to pay this out of general or the riverboat, because for the other counseling or consulting issues we're getting, they voted to pay it out of riverboat going forward, but they asked for this to be paid out of general. So we'll need to do an additional appropriation for general, or you guys will need to sign off for an additional appropriation because it's out of your budget. So then it'll be advertised in April, then be approved at the April council meeting, approved or whatever, and then paid on the May claim docket, 1st of May claim docket. So you guys just need to tell me whether you're okay with the additional appropriation, just going through the proper channels.
We've already spent the money.
Yeah.
Have to be paid.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second on the additional appropriation for Wagner Urban Shealy invoice. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next item we have up here is the Tahoe. And I found out a little, Steve Hauser informed me that that's the vehicle that had a transmission, and I think a rear end put in it just recently. So we spent a fair amount of money on it. Then when you look at it, it's a decent vehicle. It's a little banged up now on the front fender, but we probably, my opinion is probably we need to repair it.
Could we make up some kind of a rule, ordinance, whatever, that it's not to be driven out of the county?
I mean, we
I think the thing's jinxed.
Here's, like we talked last time, the biggest part is, and it's just out of sight, out of mind, and forget, and it's a little bit much to, I think it just sits idle too much, and that's what happens, and that's where you get unreliable. So that's what I recommended when we talked, that allow everyone to do their mileage in their own vehicle, because everybody feels more comfortable driving their own vehicle. But we know, we need to have that vehicle for in-county use for the assessor and all that primarily.
I mean, or even a 100-mile radius.
Four-wheel drive.
Yeah, even a 100-mile radius, but, that way it wouldn't be, you wouldn't be hauling it all that way, but.
Now what Steve does out there at the Armory Annex, he takes vehicles that aren't used very often and plugs them up to a trickle charger.
Mhm.
That way the battery's on that, so when you.
But you have to run the vehicles. I mean, that's the main thing. You have to go out there and get them running, get the oil circulating, and get. I look at the mechanical part of it.
You use that quite a bit, don't you?
We'll start here probably in June, and we use it probably on average 4 months out of the year at different times doing data collection. And God love Steve, we had the Impala, and he pulled the girls out a couple times. They got hung up at Biscuit Ridge. I think so we really need.
Four-wheel drive, yeah,
because there's new construction out in the county, crossing creek beds to get to these, so we need a four-wheel drive vehicle.
I agree with what you just said with that battery aid on it. When it's not being used, what it is, it's just to keep the battery up, because if one sets for 3 months, it's probably not gonna start.
Greg put a solar thing on there to kind of help keep that battery.
Okay, that might help.
charged.
Yeah, it might work too.
Mhm.
So the
Something
same
just keep
thing.
a trickle charge on.
Yeah.
Just try to keep it up.
So do we want to just keep it in the county?
The way I've been doing it here lately is because typically via our handbook, it says that if anybody is going, they're supposed to use the county vehicle for work travel purposes. And a lot of people have been like, I don't want to drive that. I'd rather, get mileage and use my own vehicle. The way I looked at it, I understood where they're coming from, because we've had somebody up in Indianapolis that they jump-started it here to get it going, and then when they got up to Indy, it did the exact same thing. So thank goodness they actually took a jump box with them. And so I've just been allowing people to, get reimbursed for mileage through their travel, because it's their budget anyway. So I've just been letting everybody use to their own discretion. We have had people, obviously with the wreck, that drove it up to Indy. So that's just kind of thing, whether I think we need it, whether we're going to tell people they have to stay in the county, that's your guys' decision, or just to their own discretion.
Only thing I see, maybe Purdue Extension might need it to haul something to Purdue or something. I'm not sure, but if you're just traveling to a meeting, I think you'll probably ought to use your own vehicle. But
The problem you get into is that's a big vehicle.
mhm.
And if you're used to a small vehicle, and then you take it into an Indianapolis environment.
Those parking garages, they're so
You're just
low.
asking for issues to happen. The battery, I'm sure, I mean, it's probably harder on the battery sitting there unused than it is driving. So it's gonna be a challenge. I think the question at hand is, right now, is whether we're gonna fix it or not.
I think it's worth fixing,
Yeah.
because it is a truck. I mean, a truck's more reliable than a car.
And then at some point, we're gonna decide if we wanna change the rules, what we wanna do, how we wanna modify them, so.
You know, down the road, we ought to look, when that completely goes bad, we ought to be looking at some type of little four-drive vehicle.
Something, yeah.
And then Extension could use it, your office could use it, as long as it's four-wheel drive, like a little small, like, for example, Tacoma pickup or something like that,
Yeah,
or something like that, something where you
New
could take it.
Extension uses the Tahoe a lot.
yeah, the extension office uses a lot, stuff like State Fair,
Yes,
and they use it quite a bit as well.
And it's worth fixing if you've had transmission work and everything else
Yeah.
done on it. 'Cause that's
And
not
the
cheap.
amount of money that he spent
Yeah.
on the transmission, that it's got a
So-
relatively new drivetrain in it. So, I mean, I think, and it's a 2014, I think, is what I was told. So that's
Yeah, we've got 2
10 years
bids
old, so.
on it.
Did you get Dobies?
Yes,
Because, okay, I don't have Dobies, I only have Carmen's.
Dobie's is right here. It's
So
32,
So it's less than that.
yeah, it's less. I make a motion that we go ahead and fix it.
we have a motion to fix the
I'll
Tahoe.
second that motion.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
got 2 bids.
Send her off to get it fixed with the lowest bid.
That'd be Dobie's Body Shop,
Dobie's Body Shop.
32,
Did you get that via email or a
Yeah.
copy? of it?
Email.
Will you email that to me and then I'll
32,
have
30, 23.
Next item is the surplus items. That was just a blank sheet of paper. It says surplus on top of it.
She can have it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't see it on that.
So this is all, Kelly gave me this, I guess, the Sling Studio broadcast platform. I think this is all from, the old stuff that was in here that Greg had said that, well, we want to make sure that we ran it through surplus.
That thing sounds like a nightclub. I don't know
Yeah.
what you're saying.
That's the equipment, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Who put the list together?
I think Greg gave it to
Greg
Kelly.
Jarbo. Is there any, I mean,
It's the old stuff that was in here, and I was like, well, I gotta run that through.
It's things we used 10 years ago here.
Yes,
Right.
old stuff.
We got the upgrade, and
Yep.
we're not using it anymore.
works for me then.
Yeah.
I'd entertain a motion to, what are you gonna do, auction it off? Or you- I don't know what you
I don't know
do.
what you do with it.
I think that just
You
goes
think
to
he's
the
gonna
dump.
take it to the dumpster?
I think it's gonna go to the dump.
Okay. A motion to approve the listed surplus items consisting basically of microphones and mixing boards and things like that from the old system here.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, we have a
I'll
motion
second that motion.
and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
PCDC contract, we have that put together.
Mhm.
It's for an amount of $180,000.
Got it right here.
So any comments or?
What was last year? Was it 189 or 187?
189.
If they would see the need for the extra 9,000 throughout the year, could they come back to us?
The way the thing is actually written, if they come up with projects and needs, what we based it upon originally was they're a nonprofit. We're covering their expenses, our portion of it is for them being that's salaries, insurance, these kind of things. Then if they have additional projects or something over and above, then they would come back to us asking for funding. So
Okay.
that's how it's set up. It's basically just covering their expenses as a nonprofit. That's what we're doing.
So if this is approved, then do I go back, divide that by 12 and pay out January, February, March, and April? Is that what I do?
Well, maybe not April, but
Well,
first quarter.
pay it quarterly.
You pay it in arrears, don't you?
They would normally send me an invoice.
Yeah, but
I
I
haven't
think by the
gotten it
time you
yet.
get it approved, you're probably, yeah, you'll have to run this to the council again.
Yeah.
So at what point, I don't know where you'll be,
Okay,
but
so this needs, this go,
just so you,
the contract has to be approved by the council too?
yes.
Okay.
That it's a funded one, so they'll have to approve it.
Approved, it's funded through edit?
Yes, yes.
And the edit plans are already been
Comments?
approved.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second that motion.
A motion and a second to approve the Perry County Development Corporation contract. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, the next item up is the courthouse expansion.
Didn't print it off.
I sent it all out. It's basically, Kenny Simpson's been working on this pending approval from the state legislature to change the actual verbiage so we could use the funds that were collected under the special legislation for paying off the jail debt. That went through, I think, mid-March is when the governor signed it. So we're in a condition now where we can move forward. That's where he's at. He's about 70% through the process. And so the whole concept behind it is this building on the court side is longer than the building is on the west side. Bring them out so they're parallel, and the plan is to take the parking like they have on the east side to the west side. So it'll just look like the same footprint.
Is there gonna be doors on the east side, just the same as there is on the other
One
side?
door, just for the prosecutor's office.
So all the people on, if they park over on this side, we're gonna have to walk all the way around to here
Well, I think primarily what's gonna happen is the prosecutor will.
Park on that
occupy this,
side.
Yeah,
and we'll continue parking.
that's kind of,
So we're not gonna have access doors on that wall, even though we're all parked there.
you're gonna, right now, we would have, if you do that, you'd have to potentially, this is just my thinking, you'd have to get some type of a exit corridor. Unless you put a whole bunch of
We're
doors
gonna
in.
do it, we need to do it now and give access doors there. Because that doesn't even make sense. That if you're parking here, you're gonna walk all the way around and come in this door.
Well, I think that with the staff of the prosecutor's office, they'll occupy most of those spots as well, and they'll have access to their back door. Currently, the people that work in this part of the office park behind the building.
But we're losing parking space and it's full out there,
Yeah, you're gonna lose
about 6
6 or
spots.
7, yeah, something like that.
When we walk in that door right
So
there.
it's gonna be, get here early so you can get a parking spot.
Otherwise, where would you want to put the door in?
I was just wondering that, I don't know. I mean, that's
Well, you're gonna have to
construction.
walk through somebody's office.
No, because and over there, the only people that wouldn't have one is the recorder. You've got access.
So you're talking about putting 3 or 4 different doors in there.
I was just wondering, we're gonna lose 6 or 7 spots in between the clerk's office. The court always parks on that side.
Right.
But the clerk's office eats up pretty much their side of that. So then that's gonna be probably about 6 or 7 spots for Kevin, the treasurer, which is 3, and then mine, which is 5, is 8. Then another 5 for you, that's 13, 14, 15, 16 people.
And there's 5 people in the clerk's office.
They count these spots out here and we
Yeah,
went, yeah.
Plus during the election, when they do early voting, that's 4 more vehicles out there.
Behind the building.
Sometimes it's hard to find a parking space
Yeah.
during early voting.
There's options to add more parking to the back if it's needed. I mean, there's the ability to do that. We can look at it.
Yeah, we
I can
just
mention
wondered,
it to
I
Kim.
just didn't know how that was gonna work with losing these 6 spots. I was like, well, they're gonna add there, maybe they'll put doors on that side to where,
The main thing is legally being able to put an exit door in.
what do you mean?
Well, the fire,
There's like codes
fire marshal controls
Fire
that.
marshal codes and all that.
Where you're putting a prosecutor's door in,
Yeah, it's new construction.
new construction, so you just have to take that to them.
Yeah, you make,
Official.
yeah, the question would be is how you would market. If it's a corridor, then you have to put your emergency lights and that in there, and you cannot have, it's gotta be a certain fire rating, it has to have certain requirements in it, and, you know, so that becomes a fire marshal issue, but,
You know, how's the door gonna work, Randy? I guess it might be too early to tell. When it comes into the prosecutor's office, is it gonna come straight into the office or is it gonna come into a hallway?
he comes in, they have an actual hallway, and then they have offices on either side of it. That's how theirs comes in and out. So,
But could that be used for other employees coming through the hallway to get into the main courthouse then?
they'd have to walk through the prosecutor's office. It's the same thing as if you put another door in over here, you have to walk through the auditor's office.
Yes.
There's 3 doors on that side, right?
Oh, there's a bunch of restrooms too. I mean, I don't know why that all happened.
Another bathroom.
Yeah, but something, I mean,
I'm
that,
not gonna talk about the matter.
yeah,
No.
but,
But I mean, like, treasurer's office has a window that we could make a door. You have a window that can make a door. I have a window that can make a door. And if we had that in my back room, they have an access door to their office.
doesn't everything in that side over there go into a hallway?
I don't know.
I don't think there's any, actually,
I don't think it goes in any offices.
yes. And see, that's where you, again, with the proper hardware, the marking of the signs, the fire codes and
Use a
what.
keypad like we have now
Yeah.
to get in. It's not like it's a key.
Yeah, I understand. There's some problems with how that's being accessed too, but I think every one of those doors goes into a hallway, if I am remembering
A
correctly.
corridor, yeah.
I just want us to look at the parking, with this, when we're doing this, because you're taking 6 spots out here and putting them all over there, which is, so you're taking 6 spots away from here and adding them over there, which is great, but if it's a snowy, windy, rainy day, I'm telling you, I'm gonna start my day off pretty grouchy if I have to walk all the way around here, because there's no parking over here on an early voting day or something like that.
I mean, one solution might be, we have to save 6 spots right down in the corner. I don't know.
Yeah.
The other thing is to look whether we can put a door in there somewhere.
Mhm.
And then what it involves, as far as getting approval to do it.
Yeah.
And whether it impacts the inside of the building, and then if we have to renovate the whole inside of the courthouse, then what the cost is associated with something like that. So, that's gonna be a engineering question.
Randy, do you have those with you? Can I see them or
No, they're all electronic, I don't think.
are they okay?
Yeah, I've got them there.
I just wanted to see them.
So in a perfect world, Mindy, would you think of a door in each office? Is that what would you think of the perfect world?
The perfect world, yeah. And the only one that would be an issue would be the recorder's office. But like I said, in our back room, they have a door that goes into their vault. So they could have access into that.
But all of us aren't gonna have to park on that side using 6 spots. So the only issue would be if there wasn't enough parking back here to come in the door that we normally come in. And I'm just worried that we're not. We really need to look at the park.
I think we're, and parking may be doing something in the back there to create more parking. 19 or 20 spots is what he's added. And he loses, 6 or 7?
Yeah.
So something like that, and I'm
Is
not
adding that
sure.
many more?
Pardon me?
Adding that many more?
Yes.
Yeah, but they're gonna be on that side of the building.
Yeah. It'll look just like the court side.
Yeah.
In other words, you'll have a sidewalk and you'll have parking all along the building, the length of the building.
Would it help, I know, we don't live in a perfect world, but if we would put one extra door on the upper end of the court, like towards the recorder's office, would that help? Then the employees here would park down here and have to come in the back door like they normally do
You're
now.
talking about maybe putting it out front?
No.
Line with the court?
The assessors, not the recorder, because.
Yeah, the assessor, yeah, assessor's office.
If we get a way to get through there.
There's no hallway.
There's no hallway.
They'd have to be in,
So there's not even back there.
There's no hallways.
There's no,
yeah, there'd have to be a corner put in.
On a beautiful day, it's not gonna bother, you know, I don't care to park at that end and walk all the way around here, but the days that it's snowing and raining and
Well,
windy.
you know what the alternative could be? Put an awning. Nice.
And then there's another issue that you need to think about is where the actual public access to the prosecutor's office is gonna be. And keep in mind, if it's this hallway, you've got the treasurer's office that has, during tax time, already people lined up to the water fountain. So you've got a traffic flow issue if that's where it's gonna be. So, I mean,
I mean, we have that whenever they have the courts, you know, whenever they have jury duty day. I mean,
I
it's
just hope
packed.
include elected officials in the building that are already here, that already have issues, so we can address them and work together to work out a plan that works for everybody, not just one office.
Yeah, well, there's not really, I mean, we didn't include renovating the courthouse. This was just an addition so that they could get more efficient with their operation by bringing them over.
Which I-
There's lots of things that could be done at the courthouse. There's no question about that.
Yeah. Should have been done when the courthouse was built, but
Well, it's,
hindsight.
it changed from an era, we didn't have any computers at that time, and now we have computers and things have changed. I
I
mean,
mean, is there a possibility, instead of connecting it to the courthouse, build it down by the detention center, not attached to it, just a separate freestanding building there?
I mean, you
Doesn't
could,
disrupt anything here.
you could do that, and in essence, then every time they needed to go to courts, they'd have to go through the same snowy, terrible driveway over here to go in, and then when they're done with courts, they have to go back through the snow and the ice and the wind, back down to there and back and forth, and they spend a lot of time in court, a lot. Because I've noticed numerous times they're sitting out here just simply because the amount of time it takes to drive from here to downtown to back here. Yeah, no, they just be walking in the same, that Chris is scared about with the parking. She comes and goes one time. They'd have to do it multiple
I'm
times
needy, you know
during the
that.
day. So I just think, you know,
I'll admit it, I'm needy.
we're all needed.
I'm doing that. My bad.
Okay, that's,
You know, one thing we look at too, we might overlook sometime, we've got a really nice building here.
oh yeah.
We do.
And compared to a lot of other counties still trying to remodel their old 3-story courthouse where we're all one level, it works good for handicap accessory. I mean, just, you know, is it ever going to be perfect? Probably not, but let's try to make it as good as we can, so.
And when I meet with state officials, they come in and make that comment.
Yeah.
This is a nice courthouse.
Yeah.
So, because they travel and
Mhm.
see all the other ones, so.
then we have to, there's also rules and codes and everything else you gotta go by. You don't want to, don't make no sense to me, a lot of them. What are you gonna do? There they are.
So that's just kind of up to date on that. We need to pay Kenny. We paid before. We're going to pay out of that fund, our edit fund that we used back to do studies up on 64. It's some money that's laying there.
How much was that, Randy? Do you know,
Which one?
to pay Kenny?
His bill, I ran copies of that and
I
I
haven't
didn't bring
seen
them
it.
with me, like 15,000.
I didn't have to bring it with me either.
Did he send it out or just send it to you?
He sent it with all the drawings
Oh, okay.
You and I left all that
and I sent them all out.
together.
So, if everybody's okay with that, that's how, it's part of some edit money that was supplemental, that was set aside back years ago.
I'll make a motion to pay it.
I'll second that motion.
Got a motion, a second.
Well, it'll just be on the next claim docket.
That's fine. Just so we got it. All those in favor? Aye. Alpha quote for a compressor. I haven't seen that one. Do you have that, Chris?
He came, okay, so I just texted Greg Hendershot because they came to me last week. Apparently, and I was gonna look through minutes, Alpha came to you guys, the latter part of the year saying that the compressor needed to be replaced, and I do remember Alpha being here. And that we basically Band-Aided it, and that basically giving you guys the heads up that it's been Band-Aided as long as it can be Band-Aided. And with summer coming, you know, it's constantly going to be an issue here. So last week, they were here because, of course, you're getting up into the warmer weathers, and it can't support it. And I know everybody pretty much here in the courthouse can vouch for how hot it got in here last week, and we weren't even in the hot times
Yeah, I
yet.
think it's working pretty good right now.
Yeah, it's pretty cold right now, yeah.
It's never, honestly.
It's
and we've had
not
houses,
consistent.
we've had 3 different companies that, I don't know that it was ever put in correctly and ever worked correctly.
It's so
And it's just-
inconsistent.
it's
One day you're
either
cold, the next day you're
freezing
hot.
Or you're sweating.
Yeah.
And, you know, the poor guys working out on the line, they're probably thinking too bad, but it just, we have thermostats in every office, but it doesn't matter what you set it on. It's either gonna be 100 or 60.
But they asked Greg if anything had ever been decided on that compressor, which I think you guys just kind of tabled it. And I apologize, I was gonna pull those minutes. So I can get that information and see if Alpha can forward email
What
information.
it is that we talked about this earlier, and we didn't have any money to do it.
Right.
You have 3 compressors on the
One's bad.
system. One of them is bad.
Yeah.
2 keeps the building cool. If we lose one of those 2, then it's gonna go hot.
Yeah.
And we had talked about this. The third one's basically an auxiliary. They don't use it, but it's there as backup if it happens. To address Mindy's concern, the control systems in this building don't work. They don't work. And that's one of the reasons why you'll find yourself with the boiler running and the air conditioner running. We get a $400 gas bill in the summertime because somebody's trying to get warm, another person's cold. And I mean, it just doesn't, they don't work. Problem of it is, the building was built in the mid-90s. They're old. But we found some dampers and stuff that were defective. And I mean, there's several things that the whole control system, the whole thing needs worked on.
Basically, what I got from Greg Hendershot, that he said that Alpha is saying there's nothing more, that it's been Band-Aided as much as it can be Band-Aided. There's really nothing more they can
So
do.
we really don't have much option.
Well, we can put the compressor in, and it's gonna continue to be this way. There's gonna be cold spots and warm spots and things like this. When we looked into the addition, we had the option to hook it into the existing system here or make it an independent one, and clearly making an independent one was the decision that's
Yeah.
less costly. And then you would actually they control their one little segment. Now, this is a big, massive boiler system and conditioned chillers with the whole thing. It's a bigger system, and the question becomes, they bought a new air conditioning system probably about 5 years ago, something like that. So at some point, we're gonna have to get an engineering and heating and air conditioning engineering firm to come in and review this entire building, see where we are and what our options are. I mean, it's just not very well regulated. And it's the same, we've got a thermostat over there too that
Might as well not be there.
seems not to work.
I know we made a comment a while ago, we don't really want to do a courthouse improvement or overmake. But could we, when we're doing the expansion, just go ahead and look at the whole system in this courthouse on the heating and air?
in my opinion, this would be probably something Kenny wouldn't get involved with. He would, I would think you'd have to get someone that's more comfortable with these larger buildings and how they're actually, and we've got the drawings from the building so that they could put a proposal together. This is old technology that they have in here and we need to get it up to current.
You
But
know,
I don't know what that involves. That's why it's kind of an open until we reach out to somebody and say,
While you're doing it.
you know, hey, let's take a look at this to see exactly, and probably it'll cost us a little money, but I'm not opposed to trying to put together some kind of an idea on, and so we get a number to see
Well,
what we're looking at, see what we might do.
I think we need to, not maybe, we just need to know what the price would be
Right.
to do it.
And
Then we can say, well, okay,
What our
yes or
options,
no, or.
what our options are also as far as utilizing the existing system versus a completely new system, where we're actually at. And that would, so we can make a reasonable decision.
Then look at your cost savings if you do it.
At
See
the
if,
same time.
on the
Just to see where
utilities.
we are.
Yes, yes, there'll be some, probably quite a bit of cost savings on utilities.
The main thing is so the system doesn't fight itself.
I know it's gonna be expensive, because I
Because
think that
here's the thing,
chiller
too.
was 50,
got-
60,000
It's
at
nothing
times, so.
cheap.
Right.
You've got a lot of offices running independent little heaters because it's cold and everybody knows that those run more on the electric. So we're paying for that.
You know, they'll throw a bearing in a meter.
Yeah.
So,
Well, let's try to get some type of idea
I can
while
see,
we're doing the
yeah.
expansion.
I don't necessarily want to hold the
There's
expansion
Greg.
up,
Greg, he's mowing
but
grass.
I wouldn't
Sorry,
mind coming up with
you're good.
we'll see if we can find us a
I just try,
HVAC engineer.
She said she tried to.
I'm doing my best giving them the information from Alpha on it and they kind of, yeah.
He was just asking what our decision was on whether we.
Because there's really, they Band-Aided it enough that they.
But it don't work. It's the third one. It's locked up. It's a spare and we don't need it till one of the two go out and then we're in trouble. Because that's our third, there's three phases to that air conditioning unit back there. And it's one of them shot. So I don't know, I wish I don't know.
Did you get a quote on it?
Well, they've quoted, I think it's around $8,000.
I think the last time we had one out, it was right around $8,000.
Yeah. I know there's some old quotes back there, some right at 7,800, and then I think the last was maybe 82 or 83.
So that would put that third compressor back.
And at the time, we didn't
Well-
have any money, and then we talked about trying to save half of our maintenance budget for 23 and then half of 24 and
Yeah.
put the thing in and get at least the comfort level.
I think
We
we
have a
probably need
budget,
No.
commissioners, for maintenance, because that was
It's
what
like
the
Kim-
council left it out.
Yeah, 15,000 and
15,000, did they
Kimcat.
approve it? Okay, so they put us back 15,000 in our
Yeah, but
maintenance
that's
budget.
gonna eat up a lot because we
Yeah,
spent
but-
13,000 last year without any major, ouch.
I can't remember, we did something else that was pricey.
We might have done, yeah. I
Well,
Where we
remember that.
made
I
the
can't remember.
decision to do that
We
rather
do
than
something
fix
back
it.
in that old, little courtroom.
Oh, yeah, we
Oh, yeah,
got that to get rid of the,
Humidifier thing.
Yeah, that
all
humidifying
that
mess back there was never put in right.
Only thing, if we would do this, if it would buy us a little time to get the expansion done, and then start looking at the true heating and air in this
Right,
building.
right.
So,
I mean,
Because we don't want to go down and lose the second one and have to shut the courthouse down until we get them in here to fix it when it's 100 degrees outside.
oh, that's when it always breaks.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when everybody's calling for Greg.
Yeah.
So then what we really need to do is get some updated
Quotes.
pricing.
Quotes.
And then if we have it in our budget, if we spend it now, then at least we'll get that part of it done.
Yeah.
We'll deal with it, whatever we have to
Yeah.
later on, if we have
You
it.
want me to contact Alpha and have
Yep.
submit another?
Because I don't know where the pricing is on the compressors by now.
I'm sure it's changed.
He said it would probably go up.
Yeah.
So,
Imagine that.
Because I'm thinking it was November. Or
I remember when
October,
you come in
November,
there
when they
talking
were
to us
here.
about it.
I was gonna dig through minutes, but I just didn't.
It was last year because we did
last
discuss
fall.
about taking half the money.
hold it over for
Yeah.
24 and then we take half of it.
Yeah,
And that way
we'll
we
just
can
get
pay
with them
for
and
it.
get new quotes,
I'll get with Josh, have him submit a
new
second.
quote, and then I'll add it, have you guys review it.
Then tell him be nice.
You know.
Be nice.
So we're gonna table the compressor till we get some current quotes.
Yeah.
And, next meeting is gonna be April the 16th, and it'll be at the Armory Annex.
Yes.
Can I bring up something before you adjourn? I just want to know the plan is for planning and zoning, because what we're doing is not working. So we've got to have a person here so people know that that person is here and have it scheduled. Whoever that person is, they got to be here because we're losing out. One, we're losing out on revenue, the cost of the permit, and two, if we've just went through an area and they didn't get a permit, we're not gonna pick that item up for 4 years. So we're missing out on revenue for the cost of the permit as well as revenue for assessed values. And, you know, the public is frustrated and we're getting the brunt of the frustration. And I get it and I understand it, and we're all trying to make it work, but it's not. So I just feel like we need to get something going. It's April 1st, it's spring, people are gonna start building and we're gonna mess the boat.
If you read the actual zoning ordinances, the Plan Commission is the one that makes that decision. So I know they're talking and working on it, but I don't know that they came to a consensus.
So they actually picked the individual?
Yes, they work on it.
I thought it came back on the commission.
No, they work underneath the Plan Commission, whoever the building and zoning, that's
In
where
the
the ordinance.
past, has it always been the commissioners? Because you guys always appoint, like you, at the beginning of the year, you would appoint the veteran service, you would appoint the planning and zoning,
No, I don't-
you would appoint
I don't
that.
think we ever planted,
We
planning
haven't
and
been
zoning.
planning and zoning.
It was Steve Howe, superintendent, or administrator, and the veteran service.
Well, it's written in there in the.
Yeah, in the statute, it's written, it's
Statute, that's how it is.
planning and zoning.
Planning and zoning picks the,
I just.
they work with them is what they
Yeah.
do, and that's how it's set up, so.
So who do I need to talk to get this going? 'Cause-
Probably the
Planning and
chairman of
zoning.
the
and
planning
who
and
is
zoning.
that? Is that Susan?
Mandy Jackson.
Who?
Mandy Jackson.
Okay. Because we've got to have some money in here.
So I guess the first question she'll be asking, or the planning and zoning, what kind of revenue they got.
First quarter, we got a little over $1,800 this year
I've seen that,
and 14 permits.
but I guess what I was probably getting to, what kind of salary would we pay a person? Because if they go out
It's
to
already
somebody,
budgeted. His salary,
Part-time though.
it's part-time,
so they'd have to advertise whatever the budget for
right,
that part-time person.
right.
Okay.
Unless you're going to do an additional appropriation. And I think he had 18 hours, which I don't think is, I think we need 25 hours. That's somebody in here half a day, 5 days a week.
Mhm.
So that way, everybody in the public knows from 8 to 12, somebody is here to do those permits. So we have somebody.
That would be planning and zoning, wouldn't it? Mandy.
Mandy
And then,
Jackson.
and then they're gonna have to, depending on what they're intending to pay.
Who's all on that? Mandy,
Lee Hall, Susan Miller, and there's two other, what's that?
I said
Newland.
that as commissioner,
Mandy.
and you? Okay,
as a commissioner.
all right. I'm looking at you. All right, thank you.
Okay.
I know they had a meeting set and then it got canceled, so
Yeah,
I haven't got the reset date, so.
With that, we'll adjourn the meeting if I can get a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.